Hi, everyone. Hi there. We are live right now and just waiting for Facebook to populate. I'll give it probably 30 seconds to a minute. So we'll just hang out here on September 13th. Thanks so much for joining us today. It's a beautiful September day in Philadelphia. It's actually, the heat is usually pretty bad here. It has been pretty bad this summer, but we got a little break today. Some sunshine and not so much humidity, thank God. Okay, so I'm just going to wait another 10 to 15 seconds, and that was a really great idea. So why don't you guys, I know that we have some eyes on the broadcast right now. Would you guys just share where you're joining us from? Maybe city, state, country. We'd love to see where you're dialing in from, where you're joining us from. Great. Okay. Oh my gosh, Atlanta, Georgia, New Zealand. We have Pittsburgh. Oh, that's wonderful. All right. Okay, we'll get started. So hi, everyone. Good afternoon. My name is Lynn Hernandez, and I'm with the Desmoid Tumor Research Foundation. As you know, September is Desmoid Tumor Awareness Month, and that is one of the reasons we're here today. I'm really excited today, and so is our team at the foundation. Just yesterday, SpringWorks Therapeutics rang the closing bell of the NASDAQ Stock Exchange. They actually used their time on the large screen of Times Square, on the NASDAQ tower, to display the Desmoid Tumor Awareness Month logo on behalf of the patient community. We actually posted it on Facebook earlier today. So if you want to see the broadcast from NASDAQ, and if you want to see the graphic on the NASDAQ tower, check it out on Facebook and like it, share it with your friends and family. So we're almost halfway through the month right now, and we actually have a lot more to share in these next few weeks. Visit our website for resources and facts to help you raise funds for research efforts and to continue amplifying the messaging about desmoid tumors. Oh my gosh, we have somebody else from Pennsylvania, and we have Debbie from McKinney, Texas. She's our development director. Okay, so also we have a special reminder for you that at the end of this month, we're going to be hosting the DTRF Together We Will weekend in Philadelphia. We'll be live for the first time since 2019. Check out all the cool events taking place that weekend at dtrf.org/weekend. Online registration is going to close on the 21st, so it's definitely not too late to join us. And if you like, you can show up in Philadelphia on September 22nd, and we'll register you then. Okay, so we've arrived at the moment you've been waiting for. I'm excited to introduce you to our special guest, John, who will be sharing about his desmoid tumor journey with us. Just a couple comments. Remember, the desmoid tumor patient experience is vast and varied. What works for one patient may not work for another. So when you listen today, maybe the specifics of John's experience are different from your own, but we ask you to listen for what does resonate. Please feel free to continue to post where you guys are dialing in from, and feel free to share comments and questions in the chat. After our conversation with John, we will highlight a few of these questions. So let me get John for you, our long-awaited guest. Hey, John.
Hey, Ren. How are you? Thank you for having me.
Yeah, thanks so much for joining us. We're so grateful you're available and willing to share with us. So where are you right now? You live in Boston, don't you?
Well, it's kind of complicated. I live in Florida, so I'm in Clearwater, Florida. I'm
What?
originally from
Okay.
Boston. Originally from
Okay.
Boston. I moved to Florida about 7 years ago, and currently I'm in Buffalo, New York, where I got married last year, where my wife's family's from. So there's no snow
Okay.
yet. We're good on that.
It doesn't start this early, does it?
No. I mean, it could. I don't know, but it's starting to get a little cold, a little chilly.
Okay. Okay. Well, we're grateful that you're here with us and that you're going to share your experience. So let's just start from the top.
Mhm.
Tell us when and how you discovered your desmoid tumor.
So it started back in about March of this past year. I was just out walking the dogs and stretching and noticed a bump that was a little below my right rib cage. Um, and I didn't really think much of it. And it was a little strange. I thought, I checked my other side because I thought maybe it was just like an extension of my rib. And I went in and talked to my wife and had her look, and she noticed it and thought it looked a little odd and urged me to call the doctor. So I called my primary care and went in the next day or so, and she checked it out and thought, didn't think much of it, thought it could be just a lipoma, which is like a fat deposit. And she said you can get an ultrasound if you want to kind of rule anything out. And I went through a few scans and they were inconclusive. Um, Everybody was a little bit confused as to what it was. And and then I think this was all within about a period of a month that this was happening. And then I met with a surgeon, a general surgeon who felt it. It was about the size of, I think, it was about the size of an egg when it was removed. But when I initially felt it, it didn't feel that large. It felt like the size of maybe a marble. And he felt it and wanted it removed, and thought it was a lipoma, and wasn't told me not to be concerned about it. Then after the pathology report came in, that's when there was still confusion behind it. They classified it as a tumor of non-specific histogenesis, and there's certain tumors that are in that, and I was confused, and then he thought it might be possibly this desmoid tumor, or he called it desmoid fibromatosis, and suggested I meet with a cancer center in Florida. I did a little research and decided to go up to Boston, where I'm from, and meet with the experts up there at a sarcoma center. And when I went up there, they ran their own pathology report and confirmed that it was a desmoid tumor. So that's when I found out. It was within a span of a couple months, that it went from just thinking it was this little tumor to it being confirmed as a desmoid.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. So what, tell me, like, what was the experience like when you learned initially, when you were diagnosed, to when you finally got the desmoid fibromatosis diagnosis? Like, tell me about your feelings and how was fear coming up? Like, add some color to that for us.
Yeah. So initially, when I first felt it and thought it was lipoma, I, really wasn't concerned. And then when I got that first pathology report, it was panic. They didn't know what it was. Nobody seemed to be able to really point a finger as to classify what it was. Um, and then I did, what all the doctors say not to do. I started Googling things, and that's never good, never ends well. And I was just in a complete state of panic, and my wife, she was worried. Nobody had any clue as to what this was. My family was panicked. My friends had no clue what was going on, and it was frustrating because I didn't, I had all these doctor appointments and all these ultrasounds and CT scans and MRIs, and I didn't know what to tell people when they asked me what was going on. I didn't know what to describe it, and then it's frustrating because I'm confused, and then the people I'm, explaining it to, they're confused, and it's just a weird state of mind, and it really, I wasn't in any pain physically. Fortunately, I wasn't in any pain with the tumor that I had, but it was a lot just psychologically because you really don't know what's going on, and you're thinking the worst, and you don't. Even when I was told that it was a desmoid, there's not a lot of information on it, so I don't. You really don't know what to expect, and it just it adds a lot psychologically. It has that impact on you. But I guess the more and more that I met with the doctors in Boston, and the experts, and the more and more I learned about the disease, the desmoid tumors, I guess I felt a little bit better knowing I was in the hands of these experts and knowing a little more about it. And then in doing my own research, the only positive to Googling was that I came across the organization, the DTRF, and other support groups on Facebook, and just kind of saw others that were going through similar, not the same, but similar experiences. So initially it was really, really tough, but it's increasingly got better, I'd say, as things have gone on.
That's great. That's powerful to hear. And it's our hope that when people receive this diagnosis, that they're going to be able to, get connected and get the resources that they need to provide some peace of mind, right? I mean, obviously they want to get started on the right foot. What was the experience like to talk to your friends and family about this? Can you share a little bit about their reactions and what came up for you?
Well, so my wife throughout it all was very supportive from the get-go. I was kind of, lax about making appointments and pushing things and, doing the scans. The doctor, they were very, they weren't very concerned, and they said, you can do these scans if you wanted to just rule it out. And she was very proactive in pushing me to get an answer, and that was very helpful. And then from the time of the diagnosis and even before, she was very, very supportive. She came to all the appointments, and she was just as confused as I was, and she was listening to all the information from the doctors. But she was very helpful. And then, there were some like my mom who, also very supportive, but went into complete panic because I didn't know how to describe what it was. And I'm not a doctor, and even what the doctors were telling me was confusing, and a little bit unnerving. So she was pretty panicked. But then there was other family members and other friends who really just sort of downplayed it. And there were some that said, "Oh, I Googled it. That's nothing to worry about. You're fine. Are you in any pain? Yeah, no, you're fine. What are you worried about? Why are you letting it get to you?" So it was a real mixture of emotions. But you find the ones that lean on the ones that you really do love and that love you because they know what you're going through, and I just found them very helpful. And there's some that that aren't. So there's a mixed bag, I'd say. But overall, I found a lot of support from close family members and some friends as well. Oh, I think I don't know.
Sorry about that.
No,
Yeah.
no problem, no problem. I was going to
That
say, I
was
think
me.
no worries.
That was me. I was going to say, sometimes when we get to this place of just not knowing and conveying that to loved ones, it's like we really want to be heard and seen for where we are, right? It feels really important.
Yeah, and it's tough because on top of like surgeries and medical appointments, you're living with the fact that you have this tumor, but then you're also frustrated because you're living with, you can't explain it to anybody. And, you're trying to tell people and they just, it's hard when you don't even understand it. So
Yeah.
it's very frustrating.
Yeah, I really hear that. I actually want to share, because it looks like, John, there are a handful of people that are watching, and they're just kind of, I'm not sure if you see this, but they're kind of shouting out from where they are. We have Kelly from Houston, Monica from Wisconsin. We have Deanne from Utah, Brenda from Rhode Island. We have someone, Sergio from Bolivia.
Wow.
So this is really wonderful. You're definitely surrounded by people who I'm sure can relate to at least a little bit of what you're saying.
And just a thank you to everybody for joining too. That's, again, the support's great, and hopefully anything I say can help anybody listening. And, I'm even off this call, I'm always here if people want to reach out. So it's nice. Thank you for everybody for joining.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so another question for you. Can you share what has changed in terms of how you think about this disease today compared to the days and weeks after your diagnosis?
Yeah, I think today, I do feel more comfortable than I did when I was initially diagnosed, because when you hear it, you hear, that it's a rare disease, and that when you hear that, you panic a little bit. And obviously this disease can cause pain for many others, and, it can be very, very challenging. So again, I know every case is unique, and I don't want to downplay that. But, initially, like, going from not knowing anything about it to then learning more as I've gone on, has really helped put me at ease. And then seeing that there's, people from Canada, Bolivia, Rhode Island on the call that are going through similar struggles, it's helped. Knowing that there's others that are there. And, I also think I didn't know about this group when I was initially diagnosed. And then you see the group, the foundation, the DTRF, and the things that they're trying to fight for a cure, like you had mentioned at the beginning of the call. There's hope there. And I think I'm a lot more hopeful than I was when I first got that diagnosis. And when I was first told that it was a tumor of non-specific histogenesis, I panicked. I didn't even talk. I was staring, out the door. I was staring through the doctor. I didn't know what to do. But, hearing about all this stuff, knowing there's others out there, has really provided more hope. So I'm a lot more hopeful than I was initially.
It's really interesting that you're describing this, John, because it actually reminds me of part of the way that we were founded, right? So Marlene Portnoy, who's now on our board of directors, and Jeannie Whiting, who is our executive director currently, they ended up meeting at a patient, very informal patient meetup. And after they were pretty much told, like, the only way you're going to get answers is if you raise money for research. Like, that's the only way anything's going to get done. This is a rare disease. So you need to put your money where your mouth is, and you need to actually fund this research. And so it's really interesting. Jeannie, our current executive director, tells the story about how she was going through chemo, and her husband, she comes back, she says to her husband, I met this other woman, we're interested in starting a foundation. And her husband is like, you can't even get out of bed. How are you going to start a foundation? So it's just really interesting to see how, over the years, we're building this momentum. We meet patients like you who are passionate about, you're doing fundraising work, right? You're sharing about your experience, which is creating greater awareness. Like, all of this is so important in really helping to continue mobilize this community. So I really appreciate your sharing that. Can you share some of the key things that you personally have learned about yourself during your journey with this disease and what advice you would share with a newly diagnosed patient. Let's just imagine there's somebody on here who was diagnosed 3 weeks ago. What are you going to tell them?
Yeah, so I mean, just what I've learned about myself is, that I'm stronger than I thought I was, and that you can get through these things. So, something that I didn't know that I had in me. So, my advice to somebody who is just diagnosed with it is the same, that, that you're a lot stronger than you really think you are. You might think that you can only pick up that 1 pound dumbbell, but in reality, you can pick up, weight, whatever you have your mindset to, the 100-pound dumbbell. Because, the initial gut punch of that diagnosis and hearing that I needed more surgeries, and one of the first surgeon had said that I would need a skin grafting and a big wide margin, and I didn't end up needing another surgery. When I first heard that, I was in shock, and I thought to myself, I don't know how I'm going to do this. I don't know how I'm going to get through this. And I think leaning on others was helpful. So that's another thing I've learned, is that I never knew I had such a great support group behind me. You have your family and your friends there, but you never, if you don't have to lean on them for anything, you don't really know, if they're going to be there in those times. And my wife, my mom, my family, they were great. Friends were great. And then the folks in this group and in the support groups that I found on Facebook have been very, very helpful. So another thing that would be my advice is, lean on the ones that you love and that love you. Don't be afraid to reach out for help. And there's others that are going through the same thing. So you'll find others in these support groups and at these meetings and things like that, you might find stuff in common with, and they might help you get through this. And then probably the biggest thing was just being an advocate for yourself. I didn't know I had that in me, and I took a lot of hand-holding from my wife. She helped me a lot because she pushed me through, to make sure that I was getting it done. But when it came to choosing hospitals and medical care, I did my own research on that and just tried to find the experts that dealt with these types of tumors. If you're, if you can do that, do that. But, that was probably some of the biggest things I learned about myself and the advice that I've had. And then, I also never realized that I could be, passionate about something. And, in doing this, and learning that it's a rare disease and trying to do fundraising, it's kind of became something I've been really passionate about, is trying to help others that are going through this and raise money, raise awareness, and get the word out there. So, my case, I'm fortunate that I'm not in any pain right now. And after 3 months, it has not grown back yet. But I think, I didn't want to tuck my tail between my legs and run. I wanted to help. And I think that's another thing, just, trying to take something good out of something bad, is what I would say.
Okay, I hear that. So I remember when I met you last week. Prior to that, I had heard that you were really hesitant about being visible and vocal about your experience with this disease. And you kind of alluded to this in the last question, but what has shifted that, has made you open to this kind of public conversation?
Yeah. I know, like, as much as I can ramble on, and I do ramble on at times in my answers, I'm actually kind of a quiet, shy person. So, like, it does take a little bit for me to get out of my shell. So this was difficult to do this, to do the live, and also to just do the fundraising and put it on Facebook and get the word out there. That was something it just took me a little bit to do, get the confidence up there to do. But I think hearing that it was rare, and when I was diagnosed with it, and having that confusion, and I didn't like that confusion. And seeing that, I wanted to help get the word out about what desmoid tumors are, and try to fight for some type of cure, some type of therapy for it. Just because I know that it's a rare disease with little knowledge, and I just wanted to get that word out there. But I also wanted to help other patients who live in pain and live in fear, and they suffer from the challenges of desmoids each day. Again, like I said, I'm fortunate enough that it has not caused me pain yet, and it has not grown back. But like I said before, there's people that are on the other spectrum of it that are dealing with a lot of pain, and it breaks my heart that they have to go through that. And I don't think because my case is fortunate enough, I should just run away and be thankful. I think I need to try to help those that are similar to me, and that need the help. And it's a rare thing, and that's the only way to do it, is to get the word out, and get this fundraising and get the initiatives out there. So hopefully, through doing that and being a little more vocal, we can find something for the patients that do suffer. And then last point is just being support for others. Like I said, anybody can reach out to me, and I'm there for them as people have been there for me. So I think like hearing the stories has been what's helped me, comforted me, especially at the times of not knowing, because you hear rare and you think, why me? Why am I getting this rare tumor? But then you hear other stories, and you have the support of others, and that helps you through it. So I wanted to reciprocate that and help others as well.
Yeah, I really love that, John. Thank you. I also want to point out that there's like some great comments that have been shared in the chat. And I just want to thank you guys for, not in the chat, but in the comments. I want to thank you guys for sharing your own experience. And it's not always great, right? It's not always pleasant, but sharing it feels important. And then I also want to give a shout out and thank you to Maggie Cameron, who is kind of behind the scenes right now, and she's posting some interesting stuff in the comments as well. These are some links to our website. One is to our newly diagnosed page, which has a number of important 5 or 6 different things that you can do to just take the right steps, especially if you're newly diagnosed. She also posted a link to the consensus paper, which is a scientific paper that was written by a number of experts from all over the world around the management of desmoid tumors. And this actually came out a couple years ago, but these scientists are working on writing another version that's probably, I'm not sure when it's going to be coming out, but it's being revised again. And as soon as that information is public, we're going to be sharing that on our website. This is great information and includes a treatment algorithm for people that are looking for, where do I start as far as treatment goes? So that's some great information. Just check it out in the comments. And I just, again, want to say thank you to everyone that's saying hi. And then I have another question for you, John, before we open up to some additional questions. So you're going to join us in Philadelphia within the next 2 weeks. We're going to see you. And I'm really excited that you're coming and that we get to meet you and your wife face to face. There's a lot, we talked about this, there's a lot happening that weekend. My question for you, especially because, currently you are tumor free, what's a successful trip to Philadelphia for you?
Well, I'm excited to be there. My wife and I are excited, and thanks for helping organize that. And a successful trip would be, I've never been to Philadelphia before. So, it'd be nice to obviously do the big things like get a Philly cheesesteak and all that. But to be a successful weekend, I'd say I'd like to meet as many other patients and caregivers that I can. Meet the folks, the DTRF Foundation folks. Meet everybody there. Hopefully, share some stories with other patients. Get a few laughs and share a few laughs with each other. And then really just it's about learning too. So hopefully learn more. It's something that I didn't know anything about from the start. I've been progressively learning, and then hopefully learn more. But the big thing is just really meeting as many people as I can, and hopefully brighten somebody's day, and hopefully somebody brightens our day. So that would be a successful trip, in my opinion.
Okay, I hear that. So I do have a question. Can you talk about the difference between treatment, and this is kind of broad strokes, between and this is your experience, the smaller facility that you went to in Florida versus the large, we're going to say, center in Boston?
I mean, it was really a world of a difference in terms of what I experienced. The smaller ones that I went to in Florida, they just didn't, it's a rare disease in general, but then they didn't have any, they were really, they didn't really have a lot of information. And they also were seemed to downplay a lot of stuff. Then when I went to the bigger facility in Boston, the treatment was spectacular. I mean, they had assigned a case manager for me, and that I reached out, each week and checked up and made sure my medical records had transferred over. And then the doctor was excellent that I met with, very experienced, walked me through it, explained to me what desmoid tumors were, showed me where mine was, and went over some of the tests and showed me the scans, and then just was very down to earth. And it was a very great experience with the experts, because it put me at ease, going from the doctors that I had in Florida, where they didn't have a lot of knowledge about desmoid tumors, to then going to the experts that really explained to me everything, and put me, comforted me a little bit in terms of what exactly was going on in my body.
Okay. I hear that. I mean, I know oftentimes we are recommending to patients, if you're diagnosed, please try to get to, a sarcoma center that has experience with the disease, right? A sarcoma specialist. A multidisciplinary team is preferred, right? But yeah, I'm hearing your experience on that. Can you share with us how you're taking care of yourself emotionally, and maybe there's that question of when you actually had the tumor, or just in general, you can share with us.
Yeah, I mean, it was also like when I got diagnosed with something, it was kind of a reality check in terms of getting healthier from a physical and mental standpoint. So I've tried to just surround myself with people that were supportive and that are supportive. These groups help, because there's people going through the same stuff, same experiences. And then just I've tried to just keep myself occupied and not do too much digging into the specifics of other people's cases, because every case is different. So I'm just focusing on my treatment plan. But I've really just tried to keep my mind occupied, and I go take the dogs for a walk, and just watch sports. I'm a Patriots fan. I know a lot of people probably don't like that, but just doing things to stay happy. Because if you think too much about it and focus too much about it, it can wear you down, because that's what it did to me initially. It wore me down and impacts your work and things like that. So yeah, I've just leaned on other people, and tried to keep my mind occupied.
Okay, I hear that. Let's see. just reading through these comments, taking a look at these comments. Okay. So I feel like we are in good shape. Wanted to make sure that we're hitting everything. And I have a couple of announcements. First of all, John, thank you. Let's all give John a virtual applause. And if you want to meet John in person, you can in Philadelphia at the DTRF Together We Will weekend from September 22nd to the 24th. And just remember that as we move through the month and into the end of 2023, we ask that if you haven't already, and I'm assuming that most of you have, but if you haven't already, please subscribe to our newsletter in order to get the most recent information as to what's happening in the community, if we have any other events that we'll be launching, et cetera, et cetera. And we're just so grateful that that all of you joined us today. And again, another virtual applause for John.
No, thank you, Lynn, Maggie, Debbie, everybody at DTRF, and then everybody for joining, and all others that have been there along the way. So I really appreciate it. I really look forward to meeting everybody in person. Everybody that can be there in Philadelphia. It's great. And like I said, if anybody, I'm always here. If anybody had a question that they didn't get answered or wanted to reach out to me via Facebook or anything like that, I'm always here. So I appreciate it. Thank you for everyone's time.
So just really quickly, if you're open to people reaching out to you and you want to post in the comments, whether it's like the link to your Facebook profile or your email address or whatever, feel free to do that. No pressure. But yeah, we're just really grateful. And we hope that everybody has a wonderful, wonderful evening.
Right. Thank you very much. Thank you, everybody.
Okay. Take care, everybody. Thanks, Maggie.
Bye-bye.